Honored to be joined by Congresswoman Ann Marie Buerkle. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good, Bob. How are you doing today?
Good. I appreciate you joining us. A couple things I want to touch base with you on. First of all, this morning, a touching ceremony by all accounts, the resignation of Gabrielle Giffords from the United States House of Representatives. Were you there? And if so, please tell us what happened.
I was there. The ceremony occurred in between two votes that we had today, and it was a extremely moving ceremony. Gabrielle Giffords was on the House floor along with her chief of staff, who has really done a yeoman's task of keeping things running for the last year, and her husband and her parents were up in the gallery. So just a testimony to her determination to heal as a result of this hideous crime.
Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz, I think is her name, read a statement that Congressman Giffords had written up. What did she say? She
talked about her commitment to the district and her commitment to this country, but she really needed to take time to focus on her recovery, focus on her rehab, her speech therapy, her physical therapy, but she said she would like to return after she has successfully completed her rehab. She has really come a long way from the first time she came onto the House floor after the shooting, and she's made tremendous amount of progress. But what a difficult, long road for that woman. But really, she has handled this with dignity and with courage, and really an inspiration to everyone. Speaking
with Ann Marie Buerkle, you are I want to call on three aspects of who you are. You're a woman of faith, you're a nurse, and you're a person who has faced adversity and succeeded against it in life. This injury, for her to be where she is, this functional, it's essentially miraculous.
I would agree with you. Where her wounds occurred, head trauma, just the odds of her surviving this, and then the odds of her making the progress that she has, it is miraculous. And that was also something covered in her letter, that God must have a mission for her, that she survived, and she will take the time now to figure out what it is.
Outstanding. Same chamber last night, the president gave the State of the Union address. What were your general thoughts on that, ma'am?
Well, I thought he started out the speech very well because it is so appropriate that we as a nation thank our military and our veterans. And as you know, we will be receiving home thousands of men and women who served in Iraq and soon Afghanistan. And he talked about the importance of communities in this country being ready to receive them and to make sure they have health care and mental health care and jobs. And I couldn't agree with him more. We'll be making some initiatives locally along those lines. He then proceeded into a number of areas. I thought his speech was in general terms, and the devil is in the details, how he intends to accomplish so many of these things. I thought on some occasions he was contradictory. He talked about consolidating government, bringing agencies together to avoid duplication, and then at the same speech talked about creating these new bureaus, one to talk about, look for fraud in trade, and another to look at whether or not any crimes were committed during the meltdown. We talked a little bit, he referred to the meltdown of 2008 and where the country has come from. And in all of this, such a huge part of the problem, Bob, was Fannie and Freddie. And of all the things that we've addressed, and we had a hearing yesterday regarding Dodd-Frank, Fannie and Freddie and their failure to act responsibly has not been discussed or has not been acknowledged, and certainly hasn't been handled in a way that we could avoid that again. So that's of concern to me. But, I'm always concerned when he starts talking about raising taxes. This country has a spending problem. It doesn't have a taxing problem. We do need to address the tax code. The tax code is old. It needs to be revised. It needs to be simplified so the large corporations can, we can not have the loopholes and the advantages that they have. But everyday Americans, the middle class, small businesses, they're paying their fair share. And in this economy, I think it would be absolutely the wrong thing to do to raise taxes.
It is a very minor thing, but one thing you also brought up was he called on states to raise to 18 the age at which you could drop out of high school. He said he wanted people to stay in school until they were either graduated or turned 18. I mean, apropos of nothing, but just an interesting proposal from a president.
Well, it is interesting, and it goes directly to my concern that the federal government is overreaching, and really education should be the concern of the state and of the local towns and communities who know those students, who know their needs, who know the families. And the federal government should stay right out of education because it's just a bureaucracy down here. They don't know about West Jenny School District, or they don't know about Jordan Elbridge. And so it's a concern to me when the federal government begins getting involved in such local details. That's not their job. Their job is much bigger picture, national security and infrastructure. Those are real legitimate functions of the government.
We're speaking with Ann Marie Buerkle, who was, of course, last evening in the House chamber listening to the President give the State of the Union address. He said, ma'am, that the defining issue of our time, which is a big deal. I mean, our little piece of history, the one thing which will, again, define our place is economic fairness. And then he went on to talk about income inequality and such like that. What do you think about those things, ma'am?
Well, you know, Bob, one of the reasons I ran for Congress was because I wanted my kids and my grandkids to have access to the American dream. That's the essence of this country, that everyone be given an opportunity. I think that this fairness and the way he frames it is more of a redistribution of the wealth, and I become very concerned with regards to that. This country has never punished hard work and success, and we should not start to do that. This country is about opportunity, and that's what the role of this government should be. Get out of the way so businesses and individuals who have a hope or a dream to build a business can do it without the burden of over-regulations and taxes. The goal of the country shouldn't be that we make everyone the same. The goal of this country is those at the bottom should be helped up, give them a hand up, give them opportunities, and get them up to a higher level where they can enjoy the prosperity that this country offers. That should be the goal. That's the United States of America. And I would really be concerned if the answer to that is let's just make everybody the same. If we took away all of the wealth of the top 1%, not just increase their taxes, but took all the way of their wealth, it would not address this problem, this deficit, this debt of $15 trillion. So we've got to be creative, and being creative means we have a pro-growth economic agenda, we lower corporate taxes, we send to our small businesses a message of certainty. They don't know what's going to come down the pike with the health care law. They don't know what's going to happen with their tax rates. They expire at the end of next year. They don't know how Dodd-Frank's going to affect them. They don't know what new regulation is going to hamper their activities and how they can be successful. That's what the government should be doing. They should be focusing on sending a message to the businesses that you are the solution. You're not the problem. We're not going to raise your taxes. We're not going to increase your fees and your regulations and all of the issues. The compliance issues. I talk to small businesses all the time, and they're so frustrated between Albany and Washington, what they do to hamstring their efforts to be successful. And that's the goal should be to give everyone access to that American dream.
Speaking with Ann Marie Buerkle, a last issue, ma'am, before we run out the door. The paper, I think yesterday or the day before, here in town, it did a story about you spoke to a group of pro-life folks who had gathered at the Capitol. And apparently the reporter and the headline writer were taken by the fact that you called these folks heroes, as that fact was in the headline and in the lead. What was the event? What was going on? And are pro-life activists heroes?
Well, the event was the National Right to Life March, which was the 39th anniversary of Roe versus Wade. There were hundreds of thousands of people at this march, and including 700-plus people from the district. There were folks from all across the district, from the western end, as well as from Syracuse Diocese, sent down 12 buses. They are heroes. Anyone who stands up for this human rights issue or this human rights, abortion and being pro-life is not a Republican or a Democratic issue. It's far more basic than that. It is about human rights, and anyone who stands up for human rights at any point from the time of conception till natural death is a hero. And I was so encouraged by the number of young people who were there, and my comments to them were, thank you for having the courage to stand up and talk about and stand firm in what you believe in. That's very encouraging, and it really should be encouraging to everyone that this next generation is paying attention and they're involved.
Outstanding. Anything I forgot to ask you? Any other thoughts or impressions on the speech last night, ma'am?
No, I thought it was his tone. I thought the president's tone was good. I don't think it was as partisan as be honest, expected. I do think he should have really chastised the Senate for their failure to act. Yesterday, ironically, was the 1,000th day since the Senate has passed a budget. You know, how this country can ever operate without a budget is beyond me. No household or business tries to do that. And the Senate hasn't passed a budget. We passed a budget last April, and we have already started working on 2013's budget. And if the Senate would pass a budget, we could get away from the continuing resolutions. And it goes back to that certainty I talked about, a budget and a spending plan. The defense companies in our district, the infrastructure projects, they all have an understanding of how and where the funding is going to come from, and create certainty so that jobs in the economy will hopefully get better. But I was pleased that it wasn't so much a campaign speech. It was, I thought the tone was good, and that's good. We need a civilized tone. We have so many important issues in this country to discuss and face. The debt at $15 trillion, the issues of looking at the entitlements and working and reforming them so that they're viable, so that we can preserve them for the next generations. Those are all important things, and if we are yelling and screaming at each other, we're not going to get anything done. So I thought he set a good tone, and I'm hopeful that 2012 will be a good year for us to get some things done.
Outstanding. My third last question, you may or may not want to respond. A bunch of us have been up late nights in recent weeks watching debates among Republican candidates for president. Any observations, any impressions, things you do or don't like that you're seeing, ma'am?
No, I must say to you that I think it's a good exercise that this vetting is going on, and it's interesting to me if someone's up in the polls and does well in a debate, then the next debate they get attacked, and it's just what you would expect. I just am concerned that at the end of the day, whoever the candidate is, that the American people and the Republican Party and conservatives rally behind that person and work for their successful election in 2012.
Outstanding. Ma'am, thanks so much for speaking with us. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, Bob. Thank you so much.